Hey guys, welcome back to day 66 of reading your Bible in a year. Today we start the book of Deuteronomy, specifically chapters 1 through 3. And I want to give you a brief summary of this book before we hop in. So Deuteronomy is the final book of the Torah, or the law that the Jewish people were to follow. The Torah is the first 5 books of the Bible: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. If you've been reading your Bible with me this year, then you have finished the Torah once you're done with this book, and it's a big accomplishment because I would say that not a lot of Christians have read the complete Torah. This is a part of the Bible that people will skip over for their entire Christian life, so congratulations for making it this far. If you haven't started with me, then there's information in the description of this video, such as a playlist with all of the videos that I've made, and there's also a way to get started on the Bible plan that I'm currently reading. So Deuteronomy is interesting because it is basically Moses' final address to the people. Now remember, he's been with these people for a long time, over 40 years, and they're standing on the edge of the promised land. Moses just begins to talk to them. And what he does at the beginning, I think, is really interesting. He just starts recounting all the events. Now, to you and me, this is really helpful because, well, it's a lot of information to take in, and this is kind of like the summary before the test or before you finish the book. It's a summary of the whole thing that's just happened. But to these people, I think it would feel odd. I mean, imagine that I went up to you and said, okay, well, the past 20 years of your life that I was there for, like, it would be like if a husband went up to his wife and said, let's recount our marriage. Well, we had a kid on this day, and we went to Disney World on this day, and we had a really bad financial problem on this day. It would be like, I was there, dude. Like, you don't need to tell me this. I was there. We lived this together. But what Moses is doing here, I think, is really crucial to the story because they're about to go up against their biggest challenge yet: conquering what would become the land of Israel. So when Moses is going back through and saying, look, guys, this is how you fell, and this is where you succeeded. It's kind of like when a football team watches film before they go out for the big game on Sunday. They are going to study their mistakes so that way they can correct them, hopefully, in the future. But Deuteronomy, as we'll read through it, is not exactly a completely positive story, and it doesn't have a positive ending. In fact, Moses predicts that these people will rebel. They're actually going to be exiled from this land, and it's just Moses being really honest. He's like, I've lived with you guys for a long time, and I know you don't follow God like you say you will. So these are the consequences that you're going to face because of that. Deuteronomy is a book that is written to people standing outside the promised land. And that really applies to you and me because we are standing outside the promised land. This place that we're in called Earth is not our home. Heaven is our home, and we should have a strong desire to get to heaven or the promised land. So let's hop into a few of the verses that we read about today. This is Deuteronomy 1:1. These are the words that Moses spoke to the people of Israel while they were in the wilderness east of the Jordan. This is verse 2. Normally it takes only 11 days to travel from Mount Sinai to Kadesh Barnea, going by the way of Mount Seir. But 40 years after the Israelites left Egypt, on the first day of the 11th month, Moses addressed the people of Israel. This is what I'm referring to, is that Moses, he's going to talk about the good things, like, hey, we're here, we made it. And he's also going to bring up a lot of the bad things, saying that they, for example, in verse 12, are a burden that was too heavy for him to carry. But it also has a lot of positive things. It talks about how God handed over the enemy and we crushed them and his son and his people. And then the part that we're reading today ends on kind of an odd note. This is Deuteronomy 3:21. At that time I gave Joshua this charge. You have seen for yourself everything the Lord has done to the 2 kings. He will do the same to all the kings on the west side of the Jordan. Do not be afraid of the nations. For the Lord your God will fight for you. But the Lord was angry with me because of you, and he would not listen to me. So Moses is blaming these people for him not being able to go into the promised land. But even though Moses has seen God fight for him, and he's seen God fight for the people of Israel, and he's experienced it, he has anger towards them. He has anger that he cannot enter into the promised land. And here's my encouragement to you, is that we shouldn't be putting our faith and expectations into what other people should be doing. We should have empathy towards others. So a lot of the times, I think, especially when you get into any sort of leadership in the church, such as I lead a high school boys small group, or really anything where you're discipling people, oftentimes we kind of put our expectations onto them. Like, this is what I did, so this is what you should do. Or, well, God told you to do this, so why aren't you doing it? And one of the biggest things that I've learned looking from Moses' perspective and looking even from older people in my church that have done this longer than me, is that we should have empathy towards others. Because if we don't remember, our faith journey was not exactly straight up. You ever see that picture where it's like expectation and then reality is like kind of like this, and then it eventually goes out? I think that's what Moses didn't have here. So he didn't have empathy towards the people. He had frustration towards them after spending 40 years with them. He's like, God's done all of these miracles for us, but you still will not follow him. So that's my encouragement to you, is that if someone's causing you to struggle because they're not meeting your expectations, just be humble, have empathy, and love them. Anyways, I hope to see you back here tomorrow as we continue to read through the book of Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy chapter 6, just foreshadowing, is one of my favorite chapters in the Bible, so I'm super excited to talk to you about it tomorrow.